Yeah, I mean, like, she kept saying, like, I'll give you money, I'll give you my keys, I'll give you anything you want. But when I saw it, I was just like, wow, she actually had $1,000 under it. Like, that's crazy. And it was kind of creepy because she was, like, scared to die. Like, sheesh.
Hey, Ma, it's Johnny. I'm crazy. I'm evil.
That you had parties and ordered Chinese food with two people that you had brutally murdered lying upstairs.
On the morning of Sunday, April 9th, 2017, Jake walked back to his apartment at McGinnis Ferry after taking his dog out. He had no idea that in a few minutes the front of his building would turn into a war zone. Outside his door was a black SUV, windows tinted pitch black, parked too close and too quiet. Something about it felt wrong, but Jake pushed the thought aside and went inside to make coffee. Before the kettle even whistled, a voice boomed through a megaphone calling out his apartment number, then demanding Johnny Ryder step out with his hands up. Jake ran to the living room. Johnny was standing there holding a knife. For a second, Jake thought he was about to die. But Johnny dropped the blade, pulled him into a hug, and whispered that he was sorry. Jake didn't ask questions. He grabbed his sister, lifted his mother from the wheelchair, opened the door to a wall of red laser sights dancing across his chest. SWAT officers barked orders. Hands up, down on the ground. He dropped instantly. He told them what little he knew. Johnny had shown up the night before, crying, said he had a fight with his mom and just needed a place to sleep. The story held together just enough. Police believed him. They pulled Jake and his family to safety. But Johnny stayed behind, silent, waiting, or hiding, or worse. The officers already knew who they were dealing with. 19 years old, recently released from jail. He had assaulted an officer during a car theft. Now he was barricaded inside a friend's home, armed, unpredictable, and maybe worse. The officers called his mother, hoping she could calm him, but she didn't pick up right away. She was already trying to reach them, because a voicemail had just landed on her phone. It was from Johnny, and it didn't sound like a cry for help. It sounded like the end.
Hey, Ma, it's Johnny. I'm crazy. I'm evil. I'm sorry. I'm not well. I'm dying as we speak. I love you. I'll see you later, okay? I love you. Bye.
Once officers realized that Johnny's voicemail wasn't a cry for help, but a goodbye, everything changed. They weren't walking into a simple assault case. They were stepping into something much darker. To avoid an ambush, they sent a surveillance robot into the apartment. Its job was to sweep every room and confirm that Johnny wasn't setting a trap. What it revealed twisted the story in a way no one expected. Johnny Ryder wasn't alone. Inside the apartment with him was his girlfriend, Cassandra Bjorge, the same Cassandra who barely appeared in the original police report. Just a name in a cloud of confusion. But now she was center stage. The robot's camera showed the two of them locked inside the bathroom, barely conscious. Both had tried to end their own lives. But why? The warrant was issued because Johnny attacked his sister and her boyfriend. It was violent. Yes, but not the kind of crime that drives someone to end his life. And why would Cassandra go with him? Her name was barely mentioned. Just a few arguments with Johnny's sister. Nothing that explained this. Paramedics rushed them both to the hospital. Johnny's condition was critical. Doctors said it would take at least 3 days before he could be questioned. That delay gave investigators time to dig, and what they found cracked the case wide open. They started with Johnny's mother. She confirmed something the officers hadn't noticed in the chaos. When she got home that night, Johnny wasn't driving the car he usually drove. He left it behind. Instead, he stole his sister's SUV, which made no sense. When police asked what car he had shown up in, she hesitated. It wasn't his. In fact, she'd never seen it before. A strange Mazda SUV. No plates she recognized. Detectives ran the registration. And that's when the floor dropped out. The vehicle belonged to Randall Bjorge. It was the first hard connection. Randall Bjorge, the same man whose home a patrol officer had visited a week earlier for a welfare check. A check requested by a concerned relative who hadn't heard from him or his wife. No one had answered the door that day, and police had left without entering. Now Randall's car had shown up at a crime scene, abandoned by Johnny, who just happened to be dating Randall's granddaughter, Cassandra Bjorge. All the threads were pulling toward one point, a dark center hidden behind a front door that had been locked for days. Investigators moved fast. They headed straight to Randall's house. They didn't know what they were about to find, but whatever it was, it had already begun to rot. When officers arrived at the home of Randall Bjorge, they did what they had done a week earlier. They knocked. They waited. They hoped someone would answer. No one did. But this time they couldn't just walk away. Now they had probable cause. The owner of this home had been missing for days, and his car had just been recovered from a teenager with a violent record and a stolen vehicle. This time they broke the glass. The second they stepped inside the house, the air turned thick. There was a heavy stench, not just rot, but layers. The sour bite of spoiled food, the acrid sting of cigarettes, and beneath it all, something unmistakable. The smell of decay. It was silent, but nothing felt still. In the kitchen, they found leftovers left to rot. Empty pill bottles scattered across the floor, half-smoked cigarettes still in trays. But what made it worse was what they found in the living room. A blanket, pillows, as if someone had been sleeping downstairs, not just passing through. Living. But why would anyone sleep in that filth? With bedrooms just a staircase away. Why choose the one part of the house that reeked like a dumpster? The answer was waiting upstairs. One of the officers moved toward the staircase. Step by step, the smell of decomposition grew stronger. With every breath, it thickened. What he found at the top wasn't a body. Not yet. First, he found the doors, sealed shut, lined with white caulk. The same caulk they found downstairs. The same caulk used to silence something. They pried the doors open. Inside were not one, but two bodies. Randall Bjorge and his wife Wendy. Both had been dead for at least a week. The medical examiner later confirmed the timeline. But even without a clock, the scene spoke for itself. This wasn't peaceful. This wasn't natural. Wendy had been bludgeoned in the head, her neck cut open. Randall had suffered the same. The house was immediately locked down as an active crime scene. But this scene wasn't like others. It wasn't just gruesome. It was full of fingerprints, shoe prints. The weapon had been left behind. Whoever did this hadn't even tried to cover their tracks. That could mean one of two things. Either it was a break-in, a robbery that escalated. Someone who got in, took what they wanted, and ran. Or someone had been living here after the fact. Someone who wasn't afraid of being caught. Someone who believed no one would come looking. That theory got stronger with what came next. An investigator found a receipt crumpled on the floor. Dated April 6th, days after the time of death. The purchase was for clothes that hadn't left the house, which meant whoever made that purchase came back to this home, ate here, slept here, after what happened upstairs. This changed everything. It meant the killer wasn't a stranger. It was someone close enough to come and go without raising suspicion. Someone who could walk through the neighborhood unnoticed. Now the detectives had a new theory. Johnny Ryder and Cassandra Bjorge weren't just connected to this case. They were inside it. But the question was no longer if they were involved. It was who struck first, who planned it, and most chilling of all, why. The answers weren't in one place, and that was the first sign this case was different. In most homicides, the question of why eventually leads to a person, a motive, a moment, but not this time. Because in the Sewanee precinct, detectives already knew part of the answer. 17-year-old Cassandra Bjorge was not just a troubled teen. She was already on probation for attacking her own grandmother. The same grandmother who took legal custody of her, along with her husband. Randall Bjorge. In the past year alone, police had responded to their home 31 times. Most of the calls were the same. Reports of Cassandra running away, or Cassandra turning violent. Sometimes the report suggested the grandparents were harsh. Other times it was clear Cassandra was spiraling. But that changed. Because when detectives walked through the house, they noticed something else. Every wall, every room, every corner was covered in framed pictures of Cassandra, smiling, laughing, posing on vacations, as a toddler, as a teen. She wasn't an unwanted child. She was the center of their world. So how does someone destroy the people who gave them everything? Was it love? Was she under the influence of Johnny Ryder? Was it his idea? Because the timeline said everything changed the moment Johnny entered her life. The last 3 months before the murder were filled with fights, police calls, threats, and silence. Her grandparents had grown deeply concerned. They didn't want her near Johnny. They didn't want someone with his history around her. A 19-year-old with a violent past, fresh out of jail, and recently divorced from a previous marriage. That was enough to set off alarms. To them, Johnny wasn't a boyfriend. He was a threat. And maybe they were right. Because now Randall and Wendy Bjorge were gone. And Cassandra wasn't missing. She was hiding. The detectives believed Johnny had changed her. That he was the force pulling the strings. That he had led her down this path. But they were wrong. Because what was coming next would flip that theory upside down. While investigators were still piecing together theories about what could have driven someone to commit such a brutal act, news came in from the hospital. Both Johnny Ryder and Cassandra Bjorge had stabilized. They were conscious, coherent, and ready to be questioned. According to the working theory, Cassandra had been manipulated. That she was a teenager in love, under the spell of an older boyfriend with a criminal past. That she had followed him blindly into darkness. So the decision was simple. They would start with her. Because if Cassandra was just a girl in love who got pulled into something bigger than she could handle, she would say it. She would break. She would point to Johnny as the reason this nightmare happened. But what investigators didn't know yet was that Cassandra had her own story to tell, and it wasn't the one they were expecting.
I think you know why I'm here. I just need to understand why. Talk to me, please. What I can't talk to you unless you be honest with me.
I wasn't the one who intentionally thought about doing that.
Thought about doing what? Say it. Once you say it, it's out.
Killing my grandparents.
Why would you do that, sweetie? Tell me why.
I couldn't take it anymore. I didn't know where else to go. I didn't know what else to do. And then one night I just got really angry and depressed, and I don't know, I just felt like the whole world was kind of just collapsing on me. And
What Cassandra said at the hospital didn't match the theory detectives had been building. She didn't say she was pressured. She didn't blame it all on Johnny. She didn't even act like a victim of manipulation. She had her own reasons, her own story. And if that was true, then the idea that she was just a teenage girl swept up in a toxic romance was about to collapse, especially considering there had been over 31 police reports tied to her in just 1 year, most involving conflict with her grandparents, assault, runaways, verbal threats. This wasn't new. It was just the first time it had ended in silence. Detectives realized the theory wasn't strong enough to stand, so they turned to Johnny. But Johnny refused to talk. He shut down the moment questions began. He asked for a lawyer, and the room went cold. With no answers from him, the team circled back to Cassandra. She was the only one who could fill in the missing pieces. Why it happened, how it happened, and what exactly took place in that horrifying week between the killings and their arrest. But this time detectives tried a different approach. They brought food, sat down across from her. No handcuffs, no pressure, just small talk and takeout. It was unconventional, but it worked, because Cassandra started talking, and once she started, She didn't stop.
Whatever you have to ask me, I'm good to
Gotcha.
talk about.
And I guess your boyfriend Johnny,
Hmm.
how long you date that dude for?
Like 3 months.
3 months.
Is he okay?
Yeah, he's fine. So
Is
he
he-
sends his regards and all that stuff. So
Is he doing okay?
no, he's fine. Yeah, he actually is better off than you. You know, they weren't that deep or anything. So he didn't.
Really?
Hmm.
Man, I could have sworn he did worse than me, because I remember when we were in the bathroom, because he did it with me too, he kept going, and I kept telling him to stop. So
Yeah, maybe this tougher skin. I don't really know. Guess let's start from scratch about what happened, starting from when you ran away, I guess.
I didn't really run away. My grandma, like, kicked me out.
Okay.
Because, like, this is what happened. Like, I was chilling with Johnny and my other friend Sabrina, and I came home because, it was time for curfew, because I didn't want to violate my probation. So I came home, and my grandpa was asleep, and my grandma got really mad at me, and she was, like, saying, like, oh, if you don't like it here, we're just going to find somewhere else for you to stay. And she just said that out of the blue. Like, she just got really mad for some reason. And so I was just like, if you're going to find another place for me to stay, I'm just going to leave.
So I guess when do you decide to go back to your grandparents' house in the middle of the night?
It was like a couple days after, like 2 or 3 days.
You remember Saturday, Sunday? Do you have an exact?
I don't really remember, like, I didn't really even know, like, what day it was that we went into the house.
And before you did that, did you and Johnny meet up somewhere at a park or something
Yeah.
to talk about what's going on?
We went to Peace Ridge Park, and we talked about it. At first, it wasn't my idea at first.
How did you even I guess, what was said? How did you even bring up? What was the context?
He first asked me, "Are you afraid to die?" And I said no. And then I asked him, "Are you afraid to die?" And he said no. And he was just talking about how we could, like, run away together, that kind of, like, dream. And he asked me, he was like, "Would you kill your grandparents?" And I kind of, like, hesitated for a minute. And I was like, "Why?" And he was just like, I don't know, I mean, because he knows probably everything that I've been through with all of my family. And he understands that, like, all I really wanted to do was just kind of get away from everything, kind of just move on with myself. Like, I wasn't having a good relationship with my grandparents. Like, it started getting really bad, like, that I got a charge from them because, like, I fought them, I might have broken, like, my grandpa's ribs when, for that charge for simple assault and simple battery, and it just got really worse. We just kept arguing all the time, and then, I don't know.
Cassandra didn't cry. She explained everything to the detectives like it was a plan she had made peace with. She told them her relationship with her grandparents had collapsed, that living with them felt like a cage, that they had become the obstacle she needed to remove. So she did. But that was only the first move. Because the plan wasn't just about her grandparents. The next step belonged to Johnny. He was supposed to take out his entire family, his mother, his sister, her boyfriend. They had decided that no one would be left standing, and when they failed to finish that second part, when police arrested them after the assault at Johnny's house, they knew it was over, and that's why they tried to end their lives. Not out of guilt, but out of fear, because getting caught meant one thing: they'd be separated forever, and the first crime would come to light. Cassandra then walked the detectives through what happened that night. She admitted she was the one who ended her grandmother's life, that Johnny was the one who ended her grandfather's. Her voice was calm, focused, almost matter-of-fact, but there was something she didn't talk about, something she was clearly holding back. The missing week, the days between the murders and the arrest, what they did, where they went, who they saw. That truth didn't come from her. It came from someone unexpected. One of the lead investigators had a daughter, and that daughter had once been close to Cassandra. She mentioned something strange, that during the week her grandparents were dead. Cassandra was sending out invites to friends, telling them to come party at her house. Her exact words were that her grandparents had gone out of town, and the house was free. Most of her friends declined, all except one, a girl named Sunshine. So as Cassandra sat in the interview room, detectives were already reaching out to Sunshine, and what she was about to confirm would flip the investigation on its head.
Did you ever hang out with Cassie at her grandparents' house?
Yes.
You probably already know where I'm getting with this.
Yes, I was inside the house while they were dead. I didn't know that they were dead. And
No. Yeah, that's understandable. Just, I guess let's back up then. When, because that's the main thing, obviously I'm curious.
I don't know when exactly it was, but they had been inside the house for a while because you could smell it once you walked inside the house.
Now you're saying it smells like shit. What did it?
I didn't think anything of it because...
Did you ever ask him, like, why does it?
I did, and Johnny said that it was just because he hadn't flushed the toilet.
Right after Cassandra finished her story, the investigators received a message that changed everything. It wasn't a theory. It wasn't a rumor. It was hard proof. A video sent directly from Sunshine, and with it, the entire tone of the investigation shifted. Cassandra hadn't just stayed in the house after the murders. She hadn't just lied to her friends and said her grandparents were out of town. She had invited people over. The video showed her and Johnny, laughing, whispering to each other. Their body language was clear. They weren't afraid. They weren't hiding. They were enjoying themselves. One floor above them, their grandparents' bodies were left to rot behind sealed doors. The house was already a grave, but for Cassandra and Johnny, it had become a hideout, a hangout, a stage. The video didn't just expose their lies, it exposed their state of mind. There was no panic, no regret, no trace of hesitation, only two teenagers, living inside a crime, and pretending it never happened.
Hey, Cassie, who's Sunshine?
Sunshine?
Uh-huh.
She's one of my friends.
What's her real name?
Kieran?
Kieran? What's her last name?
I don't know.
Was she at your grandparents' house?
She's been there before.
Was she there during when you guys were hanging out there? You gotta take a look at that. That's you and him, right? Is that at your grandparents' house? It sure looks like the living room of your grandparents' house.
How would that be possible?
Who's taking that?
That couldn't be at my grandparents' house. There was no one at my grandparents' house, so that could have been at my grandparents' house.
Well, I mean, I didn't shit this out. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Who, you know what I'm saying?
That must have been before.
Who's over there?
That might have been like Izzy or Sabrina.
But your grandparents didn't like Johnny, so why won't we see you at your house much?
Like, he didn't go to my house at all. Like, I mean, that couldn't have been at my house. It had to be in someone else's house because we had no one at my house. It was just me and Johnny.
I mean, you've been honest with me. I saw that, and it, obviously I've been at your grandparents' house. You know what your grandparents' house looks like, and just even the stuff said almost seems after the fact. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Anything else you want to tell us? Anything else you think we should know about any of this? No? Okay. Did you guys hurt anybody else, steal from anybody else, do anything else?
No.
We're not going to find a body in Johnny's trunk?
No.
After investigators uncovered what Cassandra and Johnny had truly been doing in the days following the murder, there was only one thing left.
I wonder how much vicious cruelty it takes to leave someone to putrefy. Did he die quickly? Did Cassie see his face? Did he see Cassie's face? Someone he loved so much, someone he was so proud of.
It is sad to me that the first time they visit my house and meet my children is in a paper bag from a funeral home.
I just continue to be stunned that you sealed areas so that you could make sure the smell of decaying human flesh wouldn't be noticed, that you had parties and ordered Chinese food with two people that you had brutally murdered lying upstairs.
During the legal proceedings, Cassandra Bjorge and Johnny Ryder did what many killers do when the walls start closing in. They turned on each other, each one blaming the other, each one swearing they were just a follower, just scared, just in love, just caught up in something too dark to stop. But in the end, they both confessed. They were convicted of 3 charges: murder, aggravated assault, theft. The sentence was brutal. 2 life sentences plus 21 years each, with the possibility of parole after 60 years, which means unless the system changes or time forgets, they will spend the rest of their lives behind bars. They won't breathe free air again until they're in their 80s, but even now, Cassandra hasn't let go of the outside world. She's been spotted on inmate dating websites, posting photos, writing bios, looking for connection, friendship, maybe even love. But here's the question that haunts every thread of this case. Does she realize that by the time she sees sunlight again, the world she's reaching for will no longer exist? Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more true crime documentaries. See you in the next video.